way! You've lived long enough! Actually, it's been too long for my taste! Frieza! Listen up! We quit! All of us! Got it? We don't work for you!
Following the catastrophic destruction of Planet Vegeta, the legendary Saiyan warrior Bardock found himself consumed by the massive sphere of destructive energy that Frieza had unleashed upon his homeworld. To any observer, it would have appeared that this marked the definitive end for this particular Saiyan fighter. However, the question remained whether this truly represented Bardock's final moment, and the answer would prove far more complex than anticipated. Deep within that enormous ball of annihilating energy, something extraordinary occurred. A black hole spontaneously formed, creating a dimensional rift that absorbed Bardock completely, leaving no trace of his existence in that reality. Meanwhile, in a completely different universe operating under entirely different physical laws, two alien entities who had adopted the designation of the Mauler Twins were approaching the most heavily fortified governmental building on the planet. Their objective was straightforward and violent: a direct assault on the White House that would demonstrate their superior capabilities. The moment their presence was detected, sophisticated security systems immediately activated, redirecting their attention toward the mechanical gun emplacements and unleashing devastating attacks. A single security guard, demonstrating remarkable courage despite being completely outmatched, managed to discharge his sidearm at one of the invading aliens. At this critical moment, an unprecedented phenomenon manifested in the sky above them. A swirling portal of unknown origin tore open in the atmosphere, defying conventional understanding of physics and dimensional stability. From this mysterious gateway, a figure unlike any native to this world plummeted toward the Earth below, his impact with the ground creating a massive crater and generating seismic disturbances that registered on monitoring equipment throughout the region. The portal collapsed as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving only the stranger who had emerged from its depths. This unexpected development provided the security guard with the distraction he desperately needed to escape. However, one of the Mauler twins quickly noticed the fleeing human and immediately gave chase, his enhanced physical capabilities making escape virtually impossible under normal circumstances. At this critical moment, a team of extraordinary individuals arrived at the scene, the legendary Guardians of the Globe, Earth's premier superhero team. These heroes immediately engaged the Mauler twins in combat, while one of their number, possessing incredible speed capabilities, worked frantically to evacuate civilian personnel from the expanding battle zone. As this confrontation intensified around him, the mysterious newcomer who had fallen through the dimensional portal began to regain consciousness. Bardock's eyes opened slowly, his mind struggling to process his current circumstances as he attempted to understand what had happened to him. His thoughts immediately turned to his greatest enemy as he wondered about Frieza's location and tried to comprehend his current environment. His last clear memory involved being caught in the devastating explosion that had destroyed his homeworld. Yet somehow he found himself in an entirely unfamiliar location. Rising unsteadily to his feet, the displaced Saiyan warrior surveyed his surroundings with growing confusion and concern. The landscape, the architecture, even the very air seemed different from anything in his previous experience. Somehow, against all logical possibility, he had survived what should have been certain death, and even more mysteriously, his combat injuries had completely healed while his equipment remained in perfect condition. The inescapable conclusion was that he had been transported to an unknown. Planet through means he could not understand. Bardock's attention was immediately drawn to the intense battle taking place between the Guardians of the Globe and the Mauler Twins. The sight of other beings engaged in combat on this strange world provided him with the realization that he was not the only powerful entity present. His warrior instincts, honed through countless battles across the galaxy, compelled him to move closer to the confrontation to better assess the capabilities of these unknown fighters. Positioning himself strategically at the edge of the battle zone, the Saiyan warrior called out to the combatants, his voice cutting through the sounds of conflict and immediately drawing attention from both heroes and opponents. However, when questioned about his intentions, Bardock made it clear that he had no interest in the political or personal conflicts driving this battle. His only concern was determining his current location and understanding how he had arrived in this unfamiliar place. The Mauler Twins recognized this interruption as an opportunity to disengage from their current opponents and immediately attempted to escape from the scene. The Guardian, who resembled Wonder Woman, expressed frustration at this development, blaming the newcomers' interference for allowing their enemies to flee. However, the situation became even more complex when one of the twins managed to breach the White House's outer defenses by destroying a reinforced wall with devastating force. The Martian member of the Guardians, working in coordination with their aquatic teammate, responded by hurling a military tank at the invading Mauler. The alien attacker easily deflected this massive projectile and retaliated by seizing a nearby civilian, hurling her high into the air, where she would face certain death from the fall. The Guardian, resembling Batman, immediately recognized the threat and moved to intercept the falling woman, successfully catching her before she could be killed by the devastating impact. However, the Mauler had anticipated this heroic response and immediately weaponized the previously deflected tank, hurling it toward both the Batman-like hero and the civilian he was attempting to protect. The massive armored vehicle would have crushed both individuals instantly, but at the crucial moment, Bardock intervened with devastating efficiency. A precisely aimed key blast struck the tank, detonating it in midair and creating a shower of dangerous debris throughout the battlefield. One particularly large piece of shrapnel continued its trajectory toward the endangered duo. But before it could complete its lethal path, another superhero appeared with incredible speed to deflect the threat. This savior was revealed to be Omni-Man, whose intervention demonstrated the kind of split-second timing and overwhelming power that defined Earth's most capable defenders. The coordinated rescue efforts continued as Immortal moved to protect a group of security guards who were about to be attacked by the second Mauler twin, the alien invader, refused to allow these rescue efforts to succeed. But Omni-Man's incredible speed enabled him to reach the endangered personnel before the attack could be completed. Once all civilian personnel had been successfully evacuated from the immediate danger zone, the assembled heroes prepared to engage both Mauler twins in a coordinated assault designed to end the threat they represented to innocent lives. However, before the Guardians could implement their tactical plan, Bardock launched himself directly into combat against the alien invaders. His approach was devastatingly direct, a single perfectly executed blow to one twin's midsection that generated enough force to cause internal bleeding and bring the massive alien to his knees. When the second Mauler attempted to retaliate against this unexpected attacker, Bardock demonstrated the superior speed that made Saiyan warriors legendary throughout the galaxy. The displaced fighter vanished from his opponent's perception and reappeared behind him, delivering a kick that sent the second twin crashing into the ground with bone-crushing force. Bardock's assessment of his opponents was characteristically blunt. These beings were so pathetically weak that they failed to provide even adequate training. Exercise for a true warrior of his. Caliber, the assembled heroes watched these displays of overwhelming combat prowess with a mixture of amazement and concern. Immortal stepped forward to express gratitude for the assistance, but Bardock quickly corrected any misunderstanding about his motivations. He had not intervened to help Earth's defenders, but simply because he had hoped these opponents might provide some entertainment through combat. Unfortunately, they had proven to be far weaker than his initial assessment had suggested. When Omni-Man inquired about the stranger's identity and background, Bardock provided his name without hesitation but immediately asked for information about his current location. When informed that he was on planet Earth, the Saiyan warrior's thoughts immediately turned to his youngest son. This was the world where Kakarot had been sent as an infant, though Bardock had no way of knowing whether his child had already arrived or was still traveling through space toward his destination. Immortal, observing that the powerful newcomer appeared to have no immediate plans or shelter, offered to provide temporary assistance in exchange for more detailed information about his background and origins. Bardock's response demonstrated both his fierce independence and his complete confidence in his ability to survive in hostile environments. He had endured conditions on planets far more challenging than Earth appeared to be, and he saw no need for assistance from beings whose power levels seemed relatively modest compared to his own capabilities. With that declaration, Bardock launched himself into the sky, leaving the assembled heroes with numerous unanswered questions about his identity, his origins, and his intentions regarding Earth and its inhabitants. His flight path took him to a cave system that would provide adequate shelter while he attempted to process his current circumstances and develop a plan for his immediate future. Settling into his temporary refuge, Bardock found himself struggling with fragmentary memories and inexplicable gaps in his recollection of recent events. He clearly remembered the massive explosion that had destroyed his homeworld, but everything after that moment remained frustratingly unclear. The fact that he had somehow survived what should have been certain death and had apparently been transported across dimensional barriers to an entirely different universe suggested forces at work that exceeded even his considerable understanding. After resting to restore his energy and mental clarity, the displaced Saiyan emerged from his cave and took to the skies once again. If this truly was the planet Earth where his son had been sent, then Kakarot should be somewhere on this world, assuming he had already completed his journey from their destroyed homeworld. However, it was equally possible that the infant had not yet arrived, given the complexities of space travel and the unknown effects of dimensional transition. His contemplation was interrupted by the approach of another flying being, someone whose energy signature was completely unfamiliar and whose presence immediately put the veteran warrior on high alert. The approaching figure revealed himself to be a young human named Mark, whose surprise at encountering Bardock was evident in both his expression and his hesitant manner of communication. The youth explained that he recognized the Saiyan from news reports covering the incident at the White House. When Mark mentioned his father's involvement in tracking Bardock's activities, the Saiyan's response was characteristically direct and threatening. He had no interest in being monitored or studied by the inhabitants of this world, and he made it clear that the young human should depart immediately if he valued his continued existence. Mark's hasty departure was complicated by his apparent inexperience with flight, as evidenced by his loss of control when turbulence affected his flight path. Deciding to explore the urban environment, the displaced warrior descended to ground level and began walking through the city streets. The architectural styles and technological implementations he observed bore some resemblance to those he had known, though the overall sophistication level appeared significantly lower than what his race had achieved. Before their destruction, his exploration was interrupted by a group of local criminals who apparently mistook him for a potential victim of robbery. The lead criminal produced a primitive projectile weapon and demanded that Bardock surrender his possessions, apparently unaware that they were attempting to threaten a being whose power exceeded anything in their experience. The Saiyan's response was to invite them to attack him with their full capabilities. The criminal's decision to open fire provided Bardock with an opportunity to demonstrate the vast gulf between his capabilities and those of the planet's normal inhabitants. Catching the high-velocity projectiles with his bare hands, he expressed disappointment at the complete ineffectiveness of their attacks. His retaliation was swift and overwhelmingly lethal, a single blow that killed the lead attacker instantly, followed by an energy blast that reduced the remaining criminals to ash. This demonstration had not gone unobserved, as evidenced by the approach of an elderly human who had apparently witnessed the entire confrontation. The stranger's knowledge of Bardock's name and his calm demeanor, despite having just observed several deaths, suggested connections to intelligence organizations with capabilities that exceeded those of ordinary civilians. The mysterious individual introduced himself as Cecil and revealed that he had been monitoring Bardock's activities since his arrival on Earth. More significantly, he claimed to understand the circumstances that had brought the Saiyan warrior to this dimension, including the existence of interdimensional portals and the fundamental differences between universes that such travel implied. Cecil's explanation triggered fragmentary memories in Bardock's mind, particularly the moment when Frieza's energy attack had created the black hole that had apparently served as his means of transportation between realities. This would explain why he had arrived on Earth without combat injuries and why his energy levels had been restored to full capacity despite the traumatic events he had experienced. The intelligence operatives offer to provide comprehensive information about Earth. and its unique characteristics, was accompanied by a request that Bardock accompany him to a more secure location where such sensitive discussions could take place without risk of observation or interference. As Bardock considered this offer, he reflected on the strange series of events that had brought him to this point, from his homeworld's destruction through dimensional travel to his encounter with Earth's defenders. And now this mysterious figure who claimed knowledge of interdimensional phenomena. Whatever decisions he made in the immediate future would undoubtedly shape not only his own destiny, but potentially the fate of this entire world and everyone who inhabited it. And that's where we'll leave Bardock for now, standing at a crossroads that could change everything. Will he trust Cecil and uncover the truth about his interdimensional journey? What secrets does this mysterious government agent hold? And most importantly, is Kakarot already on Earth, or will father and son's paths cross in ways we never expected? The answers lie ahead in what promises to be an epic continuation of Bardock's story in this strange new universe. If you want to see what happens next in part 2, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoyed this crossover, and hit subscribe for more epic battles and storylines. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.